It's a pretty 5G phone showdown. I did a two-part comparison looking at the V60 opposite the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro, how OnePlus has two distinctly different phones to sell at different price points, and what makes the V60 so interesting is the more modular design for different price tiers. Watch those two videos, they're really good. Well, now we've got the Velvet in-house, and that introduces a new middle tier for LG, so how might it stack up against a OnePlus 8? It's interesting. We don't have exact USA pricing yet, but we're expecting an MSRP somewhere around $700. And like the V60, the way this phone will be sold will likely include the dual screen case in most markets. So I'm making a bit of an assumption here which might not pan out, but I feel pretty comfortable looking at around $700 as the comparison point between a OnePlus 8 and the Velvet. Now, I usually start off with design, and OnePlus would normally win. Unlike the V60 showdown, I think we're on pretty equal footing. The Velvet is a prettier phone than the V60, and it compares really well against the OnePlus 8 for better and for worse. Clean, sharp design lines, minimal rear case camera disruption, tall, skinnier aspect ratios, almost the same ultra-thin rail fingertip feel for the sides of the phone and the curved glass. I don't think the difference between a widow's peak notch or a hole punch really makes a substantial enough difference to declare a winner. As aesthetic experiments, I'm gonna call design a draw, which is actually a pretty significant jump for LG these days. A number of these design choices also influence function, but the phones are really well matched running down those lifestyle differences. Maybe fingerprint sensors, I'd give a slight edge to the OnePlus. On haptic feedback, I personally like the more nuanced pop on the LG. Speaker tech is kind of a dead heat. Point for point for point, I'd say we're in personal preference territory for a lot of the lifestyle hardware on both phones. Where OnePlus will school LG this year is on the single screen display tech. Now, both have 1080p resolution, but OnePlus brings the faster refresh rate. So standalone phone to phone, the OnePlus 8 will be a little nicer to live with, especially for making a powerful phone feel more fluid. But at this price, I have some expectation that LG will be including the dual display in most markets. Dual display is a radical change to how folks might want to use their phone. And for people really into multitasking, it's a profound productivity and entertainment add-on. Plus, this comes at about the same battery hit as high refresh, depending on what apps you run on both displays. So it's like staging a fight between a gamer with a really nice high refresh rate gaming monitor or an office or graphics setup with dual monitors. There's no correct answer. I'm not going to call one a winner. There's no way to objectively conclude that showdown. The obvious hardware win for the OnePlus will be the chipset. The Snapdragon 765 in the Velvet is a hardy little chip, but the 865 in the OnePlus 8 is noticeably more powerful in heavy lifting situations. This is silly overkill for covering the basics, but if you have any desire to work from a phone, some really heavy lifting like video rendering or graphics intense gaming, the OnePlus 8 will offer a nicer experience that's more in line with laptop grade performance. But considering component costs this year, the 865 seems to come with some heavy cost penalties, where LG is able to offer a lot more phone for the same price thanks to its more economy engine. I'm sure that the OnePlus 8 is somewhat splash resistant, but OnePlus isn't paying for any certification, so we don't know to what degree. The Velvet is rated IP68 and 810G shock resistant. Those certifications come with some costs. The Velvet still comes with a decently premium headphone jack, which has zero issues outperforming a OnePlus with a dongle. Both phones start at 128 gigs of storage, but the Velvet has a memory card slot, and it's a lot cheaper to triple the storage on the Velvet than it is to double the storage on the OnePlus. I'm not the biggest fan of Qi charging these days, but for those of you who use it, the Velvet has wireless charging, which is not on the OnePlus 8. Of course, there's the dual screen support, as mentioned previously, but like the V60, the Velvet also introduces a digitizer for active pen support. And it's exciting because LG's actually telling people about it this time, but the Velvet could be a 5G capable Note Lite competitor with full pressure tilt and palm rejection ready to go. OnePlus easily wins for chipset horsepower, but there's a lot the OnePlus 8 has absolutely no counter for against the LG Velvet. Now, the software game, I'd still lean towards OnePlus for the win. LG has been steadily improving, but I think Oxygen OS is the nicer, more streamlined UI, and OnePlus will likely continue to beat LG to market with major updates. But it's incredible how much custom code the Velvet needs to run for audio, for dual screen, for shortcuts, for stylus support, and with a fuller collection of macros and automation. Like the V60 showdowns, I think out of the box, OnePlus delivers an easier and nicer phone first impression, but folks are rewarded on all phones for digging into more customization and automation options. And those options are a bit more robust on the LG. Okay, a very quick look at camera performance. These two are also fairly comparable. It's kind of a big deal to see LG using this 48 megapixel sensor this year. OnePlus was ahead of the curve last year on the OnePlus 7s, but the OnePlus 8 stays in a holding pattern for the sensor tech this year. When it comes to the optics and sensor size, images are going to look pretty close. The photo and video software processing is where the real differences will manifest. As a very general guide, I'm leaning more towards the LG for photo performance. I like the feel of LG autofocus. The shutter button in the focus indicator is key, and the manual mode layout I like a little better. But I'm actually leaning towards the OnePlus for video. The Velvet has smooth, high-quality UHD video at 30 frames per second. The OnePlus 8 delivers 60 frames per second, and neither phone has any advanced manual controls for video. OnePlus gets the win for video, which brings us to the battery tech and another split decision. In my limited battery drain tests, we shouldn't be surprised that a slower refresh rate screen and a lower powered chipset should eke out a longevity win. OnePlus charging is still faster than LG's quick charge, but there's a little more flexibility for charging with wireless on the Velvet. And I would not make this a major part of a purchasing decision. This is totally personal and anecdotal, but I really like having a magnetic charge adapter. Now that it's a more standard adapter between the V60 and the Velvet, I ordered a spare to keep in my car, snapping the cable on and then just yanking the phone away from the cable when I'm done. I wish more phones had this kind of convenience. I really like magnets. Whew. Okay, that's enough rambling from me. We should probably wrap this up. I cannot declare an outright victor between these two phones, and that makes me crazy happy. It's like looking at cars. The OnePlus 8 is packing this awesome beast of a V8, but I can only afford the base model options package, which doesn't even have power windows. The Velvet is a step down in power with a nice punchy V6, but I can afford a fully loaded sedan with all the bells and whistles. 5G components and licensing in the US probably gonna keep prices higher this year, likely into next year. But we've got two solid options to jump on the 5G train today with really nice phones that won't hurt the wallet. Won't hurt the wallet as much. That's what competition should look like. Different options with different pros and cons at different tiers of the market. I really wasn't expecting the LG versus OnePlus fight to be so much fun this year, but these two manufacturers are killing it right now. So where do you land? Do you want all the bells and whistles, or are you just looking for that torque? Drop me a comment down below. Let's chat. I think this is a fun conversation. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these reviews, and subscribing to the channel. More than just reading off the spec sheet, we should always try to dig a little bit deeper and look at the manufacturer's claims. I mean, if you're watching this video right now, I have to believe you're functionally intelligent enough to go look up the specs on GSM Arena. So we can cover other aspects of a comparison than that. If you would like to help support the production of more conversations and showdowns like these, there are those links down below. There's the support page over on SomeGadgetGuy.com, or you might consider joining the list of names currently scrolling by on your screen. That's a fun, growing community of like-minded tech pals, a huge resource for me as I'm planning future videos, reviews, and comparisons. They're really just super cool people, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams. Less so on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, and I will catch you all on the next review.